We start off by getting you all the updates from the G20 Summit underway in Japan's Osaka. The Trump-Modi bilateral that took place earlier in the day on the sidelines of the G20 Summit was a crucial meeting as the two nations sought to make a breakthrough in their ongoing trade dispute. This was Prime Minister Modi's first meeting with President Trump after his re-election in the recently held general elections. Their meeting also came in the immediate aftermath of the U.S. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo's visit to India. Prime Minister Modi raised four primary issues during that meeting, namely Iran, 5G, bilateral and defense relations. Meanwhile, the U.S. President congratulated Prime Minister Modi on his victory, saying that not only does he deserve it, but his victory has also opened the doors to more collaborations between the two countries. But for Trump, the focus remained on trade, with the President saying that there will soon be a big announcement on trade. Speaking on Iran and India's role amid the U.S.-Iran tensions, Trump said, quote-unquote, there is no need to rush.
In this meeting, we would like to discuss four issues: Iran, 5G, bilateral relations and defense relations.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. Prime Minister. We've become great friends, and our countries have never been closer. I can say that with surety, and we work together in many ways, including military, but we certainly work together on trade, and we'll be discussing trade today. You did indeed have a landslide election. That was a great election, 72%, as I understand it, and that in the United States would be called a very big victory, and you deserve it. You've done a great job pulling everybody together. You had many factions, I remember, when you first took over. We were talking, and you had many factions, and they were fighting with each other, and now they all get along. You really brought it together, and I think it's a fantastic tribute to you and your abilities. Thank you very much for the relationship and the friendship, and I think we're going to have some very big things to announce, very big trade deals. We're doing some very big things with India in terms of trade, in terms of manufacturing, in terms of, we will be discussing 5G, it's a big subject nowadays, and other things having to do with like manner. So there's been a lot of fun being with you. We've had some good talks already. And again, I think you'll be hearing some very productive elements come out. We had a joint meeting with, as you know, as the press was there, we had a very successful meeting with Prime Minister Abiy. And we also are going to be announcing some very big trade transactions, some very big trade deals. They're moving many plants, auto plants, into the United States. And they announced some more this morning, and we're very happy about that. So, again, I want to thank you, and I want to congratulate you, and I look forward to talking. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Excellent. Thank you very much. The big focus was on the bilateral between Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi and the US President Donald Trump. They discussed 5G, Iran, military and diplomatic ties. But the big focus was also on trade. Remember the tweet by US President Donald Trump just before his visit to Osaka for the G20 Summit. Now, both the leaders have agreed that trade ministers of both the countries will be meeting and sorting out the differences.
And just minutes after that bilateral, the Indian Ministry of External Affairs held a news conference on the issues raised during the bilateral. Speaking at the news briefing, the Foreign Secretary of India, Vijay Gokhale, said that productive talks were held on the issue of trade and on resolving the GSP issue.
Iran, the primary focus was on how we ensure stability in that region. Instability affects us in many ways, not just in terms of our energy needs, but in terms of the very large diaspora that we have in the Gulf. 8 million Indian citizens in the Gulf, and economic interests. So essentially the two leaders agreed that they and their officials will continuously remain in touch to ensure that the region remains stable. And I think that's in our interest, that's in the interest of the United States and in the interest of the region. So that's what I can say. The S-400 issue was not discussed. There is an issue of time constraint here. You were in Delhi when this matter was addressed by our External Affairs Minister in the press conference with Secretary of State Pompeo. So that's where it stands. No discussion took place. A discussion on trade Both sides aired their concerns. Both sides spoke about the interests of the other side. And what was agreed was that the trade ministers of both countries would meet at an early date and would try and sort out these issues. The Prime Minister did mention in particular that we had taken some action after the GSP was revoked, that was now something that had already happened, and we should now look forward and we should see how we can resolve some of these issues. President Trump, of course, welcomed this idea.
The White House also released a statement on Trump and Modi's bilateral. The statement read, and I'm quoting, President Trump met with Prime Minister Modi of India to exchange perspectives on progress in the strategic partnership and develop new ideas to bring it to the next level. The leaders acknowledged the unprecedented breadth and depth of bilateral ties, including economic, trade, energy, defense and security, unquote.
ये यानी भारत के प्रति आपका जो